Tonight, rescue crews reach remote Indonesian villages destroyed by Wednesday's earthquake as estimates of the death toll soar into the thousands. I'm Jeff Glor. Also tonight, what recovery? Unemployment rises, and so does pressure on the White House following a string of bad economic news. Supplies and demand. Cash-strapped California parents and students line up for hours for a chance at free back-to-school supplies. And driven to distraction, as highway deaths blamed on cell phones and texting mounts, why are states still sending traffic alert text messages to drivers?
This is the CBS Evening News with Jeff Glor.
And good evening. The full scope of the disaster inflicted by Wednesday's earthquake in Indonesia is becoming clearer tonight. Here is the latest. Officials report the quake destroyed 4 remote villages, all of them buried under mud and landslides. The overall death toll in Indonesia is now likely to jump well over 1,000, with at least another 3,000 people still missing. And aid workers are only now reaching some of the most devastated regions. That quake was centered on the island of Sumatra, and Celia Hatton continues our coverage this evening.
Huge landslides, which followed Wednesday's 7.6 magnitude earthquake, have wiped out 4 villages on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, possibly killing thousands. Badly damaged roads mean rescue crews are only now reaching remote areas hit by the quake as they move north from Padang, the quake's epicenter.
In earthquake-ravaged Padang City, there's a grim determination to search for people who might still be alive in the rubble, despite uncertainties as to how long victims can hold on before help arrives.
This 19-year-old girl was pulled from her school's wreckage 40 hours after the quake first hit. I screamed, "Help, help," and someone heard me because it was quiet at night, she explains. Someone heard my cries, and he started moving the rubble. Now, heavy machinery is being used to shift debris at the same school, though workers failed to find 7 other students believed to be trapped inside. Family members are losing hope. "This will be the last day I wait here," says this mother. "After that, I'll understand my daughter's fate." The government's focus is shifting from rescue efforts to aid distribution, now that international supplies are finally arriving in Padang. The aid includes this floating hospital making its way from Australia.
Clean drinking water is one of the most important needs for the people right now.
At this aid center, it's clear that donations are coming in from all corners of the globe. Coordinators from every donor agency and country are meeting in this building, while over here, aid's being unloaded from Korea and Indonesia. And here, a rescue team from Turkey that's just ready to go on their first mission.
Newly arrived rescue workers are getting ready to inspect dozens of damaged buildings that may have people trapped inside.
I totally believe that we'll find survivors, and at least we are going to try until the end.
But despite that optimism, time is running out for those still trapped beneath the collapsed buildings and mudslides. Celia Hatton, CBS News, Padang, Indonesia.
Farther east in the Pacific, the death toll from Tuesday's earthquake and tsunami in Samoa and American Samoa has risen to at least 170. Relief workers are searching for victims in the hardest-hit villages while they work to bring food, water, and power to survivors. President Obama spoke out on behalf of his economic recovery plan today, one day after the report that unemployment increased to 9.8% last month. That news cast a cloud over hopes that an economic recovery is truly underway. Kimberly Dozier is in Washington tonight and has more on the numbers and the policy debate.
More than 15 million Americans are out of work. That's the highest number in 26 years. It's a sign that while some companies are starting to make money again, they're not hiring. President Obama told Americans today this will turn around.
We knew that employment is often the last thing to come back after a recession. Our task is to do everything we possibly can to accelerate that process.
The White House is considering extending unemployment insurance and health benefits. It's also considering extending the $8,000 tax credit for first-time homebuyers. That's set to expire at the end of November. Both ideas are also working their way through Congress to keep consumers consuming. In all, the job market lost 263,000 jobs last month. Mr. Obama points out that's better than when he took office, when the economy was shedding 700,000 plus jobs a month. But critics counter the September unemployment rate would have been much higher if 500,000 people hadn't stopped looking for work, so they're no longer counted.
If all of the people that were working part-time, that want to work full-time, are counted, and all of the people who have left the labor force are counted, the unemployment rate is 17%.
One big problem, people aren't buying American products, here or abroad. So factory orders are down and supplies are piling up. Until that changes, economists predict employers will keep cutting jobs into the middle of next year.
The economy is not performing as it should.
The GOP calls it proof the stimulus package, meant to get Americans buying and back to work, isn't working. Republicans are pushing a plan that includes tax cuts for small businesses.
Our plan is based on the belief that fast-acting tax relief is the most effective way to put our economy back on track.
The president says he's considering other unspecified options to get more Americans back to work. In the meantime, he has to convince people that this unemployment will bottom out, so they'll keep spending. Kimberly Dozier, CBS News, Washington.
Also joining us from Washington tonight to help with the economy and all the rest of the Week in Focus is CBS News analyst John Dickerson. John, good evening to you. We know that ultimately these jobs numbers are worst for those workers who simply don't have jobs right now. How bad are they for the White House?
Well, they're bad for the White House because it calls into question whether the president's stimulus package is really working. When the numbers have been better each month, the White House has said it's because the stimulus package is going great guns. But now they've turned out not to be as good as the White House had hoped. And so that raises a big question. There aren't many tools for the president now to use to fix the economy, so he has to talk about it in other ways. Today, in his radio address, the president said that with health care reform, he can help small businesses. So what he's doing is saying, when I talk about health care reform, I'm also talking about the economy.
John, we know the president traveled to Copenhagen to lobby for Chicago's 2016 Olympic bid. Definitively, they did not get it. How much political capital did the president lose by traveling overseas?
Well, Chicago didn't just not finish the race, they tripped in the starting blocks. Usually you bring the president in when he can seal the deal. That didn't happen here. This is probably not a huge loss of prestige on the international scale, but domestically it becomes a tidy symbol for a larger problem that he's been criticized for, which is that he's trying to do too much, too fast, all of it at the same time, and this fits neatly into that storyline.
Speaking of symbolism, we know the president met with General Stanley McChrystal regarding the war in Afghanistan when he was on the ground there in Copenhagen. How significant was that meeting?
It was significant because the president was showing that he's on the case. He also got a chance to show that he was doing other work when he was on his trip to pitch for Chicago. The meeting was important, though, because the White House has been on the defensive a little bit about the fact that the president had only talked once to his commander in Afghanistan before this week. For McChrystal, it was important because earlier this week, he had a 3-hour meeting by remote with the White House and the National Security Team, and they were very skeptical about his assessment of Afghanistan. So in a face-to-face meeting with the president, he can make his case, argue for why he thinks there should be more troops, and there's nothing better than a face-to-face meeting to make that case.
All right, our CBS News analyst John Dickerson joining us this evening from Washington. John, as always, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News. Can Iran be trusted to keep its promises about its nuclear program? The New York Times is reporting tonight that UN experts believe Iran has, quote, sufficient information to be able to design and produce a workable nuclear weapon. That report goes further than the public position of the U.S. government. And it comes on the day the head of the UN's nuclear watchdog agency arrived in Tehran to arrange the inspection of Iran's newly revealed enrichment plant. Elizabeth Palmer has the latest.
Arriving in Tehran, Mohammad El-Baradei was greeted by officials who will hammer out the IAEA's inspection of what President Obama told the world was a covert nuclear facility. Not at all, say the Iranians. They simply didn't reveal the existence of this plant until it was finished in case it was bombed. President Ahmadinejad said today Mr. Obama made a historic mistake. But in Geneva earlier this week, there appeared to be historic progress in talks between the Iranians and 6 world powers. The Iranians said not only that the IAEA inspectors could visit the secret plant within 2 weeks, they also agreed in principle to cooperate with Russia and France on a sensitive uranium enrichment project and announced they would be back to negotiate some more. The deal reached here in Geneva on Thursday does seem to represent progress of sorts. At least it proves the Iranians are willing to talk about their nuclear program, but there is no doubt the really hard bargaining lies ahead. 2 weeks of extreme violence followed Iran's elections in June. Since then, the protesters have gone largely underground. But Iran's government knows millions of its citizens don't recognize its legitimacy. And some analysts think this regime is counting on nuclear negotiations with the West to shore up its support.
The message that the regime wanted to send back to Iran, that no matter what you think or how we're treating you, at the end of the day, the international community will speak to us and not support you.
Western diplomats know the nuclear talks, due to start again before the end of the month, might send this signal to a discouraged reform movement. But at the moment, they say, the priority is to make sure Iran does not develop a nuclear bomb. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS News, Geneva.
Officials in Sicily say at least 21 people have died in mudslides set off by heavy rains. Rescue teams search for an estimated 30 others believed to be missing. 9 inches of rain fell in the area in only 3 hours. The U.S. military in Afghanistan says an Afghan policeman opened fire on American troops yesterday, killing 2 soldiers before escaping. It happened during a joint patrol in Wardak province near Kabul. Another American died of wounds from a bomb attack in the same province. Both to protest the war in Afghanistan and to honor the U.S. dead, military families and peace activists in Washington, D.C. lined up empty combat boots at the Ellipse today. They represent the 859 Americans who've died since the war began. Just ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, long lines for free school supplies, but are they enough for all the kids who need them? Back to school is anything but a routine phrase for children of families suffering economic hard times. Help is available for many students in need of basic classroom supplies, but the question is, will that help be enough? Sandra Hughes has more tonight from Los Angeles on the children of the recession.
They started lining up Monday, sleeping on the streets of Skid Row for a chance to get free shoes and school supplies at the Fred Jordan Mission.
So you need a good sturdy backpack?
Yes. Maya Palacio, 4 of her siblings and her mom slept overnight in a tent. At a time when many cities are said to be turning a corner in this recession, California's unemployment is a whopping 12.2%. Maya's dad had his work hours cut back because of the economy. Now the family budget is tight.
We just try to find the cheapest, going to the 99-cent stores.
Maya doesn't ask for much.
Okay, thank you.
And she's not embarrassed about her situation.
What does it make you think when you see all these other families out here?
It makes me think that I'm not the only one struggling.
Everything from shampoo to jackets to jeans are donated for the giveaway, but this year, because of the economy, donations are down 30%. Corporations like Foot Locker and Guess are big donors, but individuals give to the mission too. Last year, they had $2 million in donated merchandise to give away. This year, only half that. Yet 500 more people showed up this year, 5,500 in all.
Everyone will receive something, even if they don't get a complete outfit.
Mission officials say they see more unemployed dads and more children in need.
I like them a lot, and I'm grateful for what I did get.
A bag full of supplies and a lesson in goodwill. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The Anne Frank Museum in Amsterdam has posted tonight the only known film clip of the young Holocaust victim on YouTube. That film shows 13-year-old Anne Frank looking down from an upstairs window at a neighbor's wedding. The film was shot on July 22, 1941, before the Frank family was forced to hide from the Nazis. Coming up on tonight's CBS Evening News, mixed messages in the campaign against distracted drivers. President Obama this week banned text messaging by federal workers driving an official business after the government hosted a distracted driving summit. But it turns out some of the messages distracting drivers are coming from government agencies. Terrell Brown has more.
It was probably the worst moment of my entire life.
Jennifer Smith calls her mother's loss death by cell phone. Last September, 61-year-old Linda Doyle was killed by a driver who ran a red light. Police say the 20-year-old in the other vehicle was talking on his cell phone.
Senseless, no phone call, could be worth someone's life.
Distracted motorists, like this San Antonio van driver, are involved in 25% of all police-reported crashes.
Distracted driving is a growing and serious problem.
Jackie Gillen of Advocates for Highway and Auto Safety says the message is simple. Drivers need to keep their eyes on the road, not the keypad. But Gillen is concerned drivers may be getting a mixed message.
Stuck in traffic, call 212-975.
I think that there's a mixed message if governments are putting out real-time information and using a technology that in order for the driver to access puts them in danger.
27 states and Washington, D.C. have some type of ban on texting while driving. Yet the District of Columbia and 33 state transportation departments offer travel alerts via text messaging. Or like the Michigan Department of Transportation, the social messaging service Twitter.
Our focus using Twitter is to get people the information when they need it.
That was the case in July after this fiery tanker crash near Detroit. The State Department of Transportation posted tweets alerting drivers of a major road closure.
We're expecting people to look before they get in behind the wheel of their car.
Smith is lobbying to end distracted driving, if for nothing else, to protect her own family.
I don't want to get another phone call that this has happened again.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reports nearly 6,000 people lost their lives last year in a crash involving a distracted driver. More than 500,000 people were injured, and by far, drivers under the age of 20 are the worst offenders. Jeff?
All right, Terrell Brown tonight. Terrell, thank you very much. Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News. Want to start your own green revolution? Just look up. The mayor of San Francisco has ordered all city agencies to look for spots to turn into urban farms, including even rooftops. In more and more places these days, crops are taking root above your head in a growing trend that benefits consumers and the environment. Hari Srinivasan has more.
Annie Novak has farmed in 9 different countries, but never on a farm that required climbing a flight of stairs.
So this is your baby?
That's my baby.
This 6,000 square foot organic farm is on the roof of a warehouse in Brooklyn.
We're already growing our fall squashes and we're saying goodbye to the summer fruits.
Started in April, it is the nation's first commercial working farm built on a green roof. The owners grow and sell more than 30 varieties of fruits and vegetables to local restaurants and residents.
And we've got tomatoes here.
Yeah, the tomatoes have been doing really well, actually. You can see.
Besides the food, green roofs offer big environmental benefits. The soil on this roof can absorb up to 2 inches of rain, preventing rainwater from picking up pollutants on the ground before it enters storm drains.
When it goes out the drain, it hits a very antiquated sewage system that, when it's overtaxed, just pumps everything out into the ocean.
Lisa Good, who designed this farm and builds green roofs for homes and office buildings, says they reduce utility bills.
Because this basically acts as an air conditioner for the heat that rises through a building.
The soil and plants also save owners money by extending the life of roofs.
You're protecting your roof because you're removing it from UV rays and ice and cold.
While this rooftop farm in New York is exceptional, it's not unique. There are green roofs sprouting up all over the country. Green roofs on top of both Chicago City Hall and San Francisco's California Academy of Sciences keep the buildings 10 degrees cooler in the summer and that much warmer in the winter. A hospital in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and a firehouse in Raleigh, North Carolina just installed green roofs. The 2.5-acre green roof on the Target Center Arena in Minneapolis will keep 1 million gallons of storm water from flowing into the Mississippi River every year. And you might be surprised to learn one of the largest green roofs in America was built Ford Tough on top of a truck plant in Dearborn, Michigan. Annie Novak hopes her Brooklyn farm doesn't remain the only green roof in the neighborhood for long.
The more the merrier. We need this in this city.
Hari Srinivasan, CBS News, New York.
That is the CBS Evening News tonight. Later on CBS, 48 Hours Mystery. Russ Mitchell will be here tomorrow night. I'm Jeff Glor, CBS News in New York. Good night.